Okay, this video is for the notes activity for lesson 4.3. So I'm going to first of all ask you to grab a color, and we're going to do a little framing just to highlight that top section. And if your markup tool or your highlighter tool does work, you can use that. And we're talking about corresponding angles. Now, angles are corresponding. Angles that are in the same position with respect to a transversal. So on this blank here, you're going to put transversal. That's been a key vocab word. So a transversal, let me grab my highlighter tool and grab blue. Transversal is this line here, and these other pictures, that line there, that line there, that line here, and that line here. Now, to be corresponding, they have to be in the same position. So there's two angles that kind of match up. If you look at the picture on the left, and you notice the transversal in blue, it's kind of purplish blue, it cuts through the other two lines. And even though those two lines aren't parallel, they still form 8 angles. Each intersection has 4 angles. And notice in the top intersection, the top left angle is angle A. So if you look at the second intersection, the top left angle is angle E. A and E are corresponding angles. A and E. Let me erase that, let me erase this, let me erase this. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me change colors now. Notice on the top right, you have angle B. Well, angle B corresponds to angle F. It's in the top right of the other intersection. And using black, I'll go to the bottom left. That's angle C in that intersection. And the other intersection and the bottom left angle is angle G. And then there's D and H. So we have angles A and E. Put that in red. We have angles B and F. And then we had angles C and G. And finally, there's angles D and H. D and H. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's take a look at the other 4 drawings over here. Take a look at those. The upper left, this one here, angle X is in the upper left, and so it is in this intersection. It's in the upper left. Let me zoom in. If you look at the right picture, the upper right is the Y, and notice the other Y is in the upper right, and then the Z's are in the bottom left, and the W's are in the bottom right. So they have the same positions. Now here's really an important thing to know. If 2 lines are parallel, their corresponding angles are congruent. That means they'll have the same measure. So on that blank, we're going to put congruent. So you have parallel lines, the corresponding angles will be the same measure. The X's will be the same, the Y's will be the same, the Z's will be the same, the W's will be the same. So if you can identify corresponding angles, they will be the same measure. So let's see how you do down at the bottom. It says name pairs of corresponding angles. So there's 2 pictures. We're going to look at the picture on the left. We have a transversal right through here. And sorry I didn't make that too straight. We're looking for corresponding angles. When this first intersection at the top, the upper left is angle 1. So angle 1 is corresponding to which angle down here? Yep, the upper left would be angle 5. So angle 1 goes with angle 5. Most of you are probably saying, well, angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding, so that is correct. Then you have angle 3 and angle 7. They go together. They're corresponding. And then we have angle 4 and angle 8. Now, since these two lines are not parallel, this one here, these corresponding angles would not be congruent or the same measure. That only occurs when there are parallel lines. So let's shift over to the picture on the right. You can see a triangle, but you also notice there are two parallel lines, which is the bottom side here in this segment that kind of cuts that triangle kind of in half, not quite. So let's look for corresponding angles in this picture. So you consider this as a transversal. Angle BDE right here corresponds to what other angle? Down here at this intersection, angle DAC, or you can call it angle BAC. Those two angles will have the same measure because the two segments are parallel, and that transversal then you get corresponding angles, and the corresponding angles will be the same measure because the other two lines are parallel. There's another pair of corresponding angles. That is angle BED, that one right there, and angle BCA, this one here. So they're going to have the same measure because they're corresponding. Okay, to finish the notes for today, we kind of did the front part of this. We're going to flip to the back. Now, there are several other things in this note sheet. We're not going to do them all today. We're going to save some for next week. But take a look at this picture. It talks about if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then each pair of corresponding angles are congruent. So let's go through and let's look at all the angles that are congruent. So angle 1 corresponds to which other angle in the other intersection? It would be angle 5. So use the same color. I'm going to pick red for that. Now I'll choose another color. So angle 2 in that intersection corresponds to angle 6 here. They'd be the same measure. Then we have angle 3 corresponds to angle 7. And then we could choose another color. We could say angle 8 corresponds to angle 4. So hopefully you get the idea of corresponding angles. And since the lines are parallel, they're going to have the same measure. All right, the next picture is you're just going to grab a color and just put a line through there. We're not going to do those two. We're going to finish with looking at this skills practice, just a couple of these problems. So if you take a look at the picture, you see the directions. It says in the figure, line M is parallel to line P. So there's line M, and here's line P. They're parallel to each other. They want us to name all the angles that are congruent to the given angle. So the first one is angle 1. Grab my pen tool. Let me use red. Angle 1 is here. Well, if you look at the transversal right through here, angle 9 corresponds to that. So angle 1 and angle 9 will have the same measure. Let me get rid of that ugly looking. There we go. So they're going to be the same measure. They're corresponding angles. Angle 1 also is the same measure as angle 6 because those are vertical angles. And angle 1 and angle 14 are alternate exterior angles. So they're going to have the same measure. So angle 1 has the same measure as angle 9, 6, and 14. Let's see how you do with angle 7 in number 2. Let's use blue. So you have angle 7 here. Angle 7 and angle 4, they're vertical. They're going to have the same measure. Angle 7 corresponds to what angle? Angle 15. So they're going to have the same measure. And angle 7 and angle 12 are alternate interior angles. They're going to have the same measure. Grab green. Number 3, angle 13, which is here. It corresponds to 5, so angle 13 and angle 5 will have the same measure. Angle 10 is vertical to 13, so 10 is going to have the same measure. And alternating exterior, angle 2 will also have the same measure. So let's take a look at number 8. Number 4. This is angle 8. Angle 8's over here. Maybe I should choose another color here. Let's do that. Maybe I'll use like purple. Does that work? Maybe not. There we go. So let's use purple instead. Angle 8 is here, so angle 3 will have the same measure. Angle 8 and angle 16 are corresponding. That'll have the same measure. And angle 8 and angle 11 are alternate interior angles. They're going to have the same measure. So there you have it. Being able to identify all the angles in a picture like that, when you have parallel lines and a transversal, which ones will be the same measure. Okay, the last example for today's part of the notes activity is we're going to look at number 7. So number 7, you have two parallel lines. So let me highlight this in yellow, be as straight as I can. And then you have a 40-degree angle given. We're going to put the angle measurements in for every angle. So let's use blue. So we already know that's 40. So alternate interior, so angle 4 has to be 40. If you want to make that bigger so it's easier to write, you may do that. And the 40-degree angle and angle 1 are corresponding angles. So they have to have the same measure. And angle 7 is a vertical angle to the 40-degree angle. So that's going to be 40 degrees also. And then to finish up our work here, let's go with some pink in here. So if that's 40 degrees, what's angle 6? Together they make 180. They're supplementary. 180 minus 40 is 140 degrees. So angle 6 is 140. And if angle 6 is 140, so does angle 5 have to be 140. And angle 5 and angle 2 are alternate interior. They've got to be the same. But you might have also noticed angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding angles. They've got to be the same measure, which they are. And then there's angle 3. Angle 3 and angle 6 are alternating exterior. Angle 2 and angle 3 are vertical. Angle 5 and angle 3 are corresponding. So any way you look at it, angle 3 will have the same measure as those other ones. That's it for the notes activity for today. You'll want to turn in the note sheet for what we've filled in so far on this sheet here and on the other two sides that we worked on.